All right, hello everyone. The reason I am making this video today is because I had recently been asked in one of the nail groups I'm in how I used this plate, how to make it work. How does this gradient plate work? And I believe the company does have a video on it, but it seems kind of hidden on their YouTube channel. I browsed through it. There was a couple of videos that looked like they used it, but it wasn't the direct purpose. So due to all the questions, which is hard to explain in word form, the directions in which I used it, that is the purpose of this video, to show you how to use Maniology's M319 gradient plate. Now, I also want to point out that they have another plate that has the same purpose. Mainly, this image, the French plate, is mostly for the French stuff, but it also has this right here, this big empty spot, which is made for the same purpose, for gradients. They also use it for smudgicure, which I believe they have a video specific for smudgicures, and that's also where they mention the gradients, I believe. There's other companies that also have that same big blank square image for that purpose. But for the purpose of today's video, I'm using this plate that's made specifically for gradients and nothing else. And of course, the smudgicures, but that's what these particular images are for. I have two pre-made. It was an accident. I'd already tried to record this video once, but the alarm to pick up my son from preschool had went off and shut off my video, so I lost half of my feed. So I will show the vertical and the horizontal gradients with this plate. Now I picked Pumps, which is B463, a nice, very bright pink, and Mangosteen, B437, which is a nice, deep, cool purple. It's not super dark, but it's a nice contrast to the pink to show off the purpose of this plate. And you can use more of a fading color combination, multiple purples to blend together, multiple pinks, blues, greens, whatever your flavor is. But this, I chose contrasting colors to make it easier to see exactly what I'm doing. And for the purpose of the video, I think I'm actually going to size up an image because this one didn't quite cover the nails nicely when I was using it. It was almost perfect, but not quite. So what you want to do, and I apologize if you hear any of my cats or my youngest son who is special needs in the background. I tried to do this when he was still at school, so I am greatly apologizing right now. But what you want to do is you want to place the polish for horizontal to the side of the image. It doesn't matter which side, it just depends on which side you decide you want to scrape for directionality. And make sure you have enough that it fills in this well, whatever size image that you're doing. The bigger the image, the more polish you will need. But make sure that you put enough polish that it will actually scrape in and blend. Because if you don't, it's going to dry up on you and it's not going to cover fully. And then when you go to pick it up, you're going to have blotches. I'm using my monocle stamper. You can use your ice cube stamper if that's what you have. You can use the monocle part of a shrinker stamper if that's what you have. I would not recommend stampers like this. And what I mean by that is when you turn this sideways, see how much more domed that is? That's a lot more squish than your regular monocle stamper. So this is not recommended for what we're doing. I would recommend something a little firmer. All right, so after you apply the polish to whichever directionality you want, horizontal or vertical, you want to very lightly scrape and kind of move the scraper back and forth when you're doing so, as well as have it almost completely flat against the plate. And then you roll your stamper, or you can press down. I prefer to roll, and you get this beautiful gradient. And then you line it up with your nail or nail tip, whatever one you're using, and apply. Now, these are stamping polishes. You can use it with regular polishes on these particular plates too, generally. Though if you're a beginner, I do not recommend using a regular polish on a stamping plate. It's kind of hard to explain. I tried to do that when I first started stamping many years ago, and I got very discouraged because whatever the difference in the formula with a stamping polish versus a regular polish, it really does make a difference. It dries faster when you use a regular polish. It makes it almost impossible to pick up if you're not experienced. It's very difficult to pick up. And that's the biggest reason I tell people when they're starting off, do not use regular polishes for stamping unless you're using it to fill in the image for reverse stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and do a second layer on this so you can see that it becomes even more opaque. One layer does do the trick, but it's not the recommended amount, in my opinion, because you just get a better, richer color when you do it at least twice. And it also helps blend the gradient, I find. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time. Very gently going up and down with the scraper ever so slightly to blend the colors. Because if you go and literally just completely straight across without shifting the scraper card up and down, it will not blend. And then line it up and stamp. You see how beautiful that gradient is right there? See how nicely it just blends in together? Now, you can see the scrape lines ever so slightly on it right now. That will go away when you put your top coat on. Now, for the vertical application, if you're wanting a vertical gradient, or commonly known as an ombre in the nail world, you want to go from either the top or the bottom instead of the sides. So once again, what you do is you place the polish inside of the image at the top or the bottom, line them up. You can do more than 2 colors. I'm just doing 2 for the purposes of this video. Make sure there is enough to fill the entire image. So you may have to be a little bit more generous depending on the size of the nail. And then same thing. Now, if you need to, for scraping purposes, if it's more comfortable, turn the plate if you need to. So once again, we're going to scrape down the image, and we're going to continue to do so very lightly and just very gently, almost completely flat, like a sheet of paper being laid on top of it, and moving it side to side just a little bit to make sure it blends. And I'm going to scrape that off into the other one so we don't have bleed over and smush, and roll. Look at that beautiful gradient. And then we're going to line up with your nail or nail tip, whichever one you're using, and apply. Now this one gives a pretty good idea of what I was talking about. When you look at it up close, you can see through it ever so slightly. That's why I recommend more than 1 layer. They're generally opaque enough with 1, but not always, and it blends better with at least 2. Oop, I almost did that before cleaning my plate. Make sure you clean your plate in between applications, because you could end up wasting more polish instead of saving yourself product. because sometimes that leftover polish that's dried in the well will cause it to not pick up properly. You don't want that. You can do it and still have it pick up nicely. However, it's a risk you're going to be taking, and it may not be the outcome you intend for and end up using more polish than what you want. And polish can be expensive, so we don't want to waste. So I'm going to go ahead, once again, I'm going to put mangosteen and pumps on each side of the image in the top to make the gradient that I want. I'm going to turn it sideways because I have an easier time scraping it from the side than I do up and down. So I'm going to scrape. And you see, I didn't really move the scraper, and it's almost a solid line. It's not blended, right? Okay, so that's when we want to go in again, more than once, taking the excess polish with it and move it ever so slightly back and forth across it in each direction. Why? So it blends. If I do it straight, it won't blend. And look at that beautiful, beautiful blend. And layering it with the other one that's already on it blends it even more because it's ever so slightly sheer. Okay, so now that we have stamped it twice, and I have apparently stamped myself, we're going to clean the plate, and then we're going to apply the top coat to show you exactly how much of a difference it makes on helping it blend once you seal it up. Okay, so we are going to start with, and we're going to use smudge free because we used stamping polishes for this. And if you try to use a regular polish over it, you're going to have to use a thick, thick layer to keep it from smudging. So I want to go in with our smudge free top coat for Maniology. You can use any smudge free or quick dry if you want, though if you use a quick dry, use a thick layer, float it on so that way it does not smear it. And now when you look at it, it almost looks like it was never even done with scraping. Has a nice, beautiful blend. Go ahead and get some more smudge free top coat. Oh my goodness, I just accidentally dropped some on my mat. And look at that. It just brings it all together. And now you have a beautiful base by itself. You could wear it as is, which I don't do that kind of thing anymore. I don't just wear a gradient anymore. I always find myself putting some kind of design over top. So, when doing this, this gives you a nice gradient by itself, or you can stamp an image over it. You can hand paint an image over it. You can put stickers over it. You can do whatever you want. But the main purpose of this plate is this right here. Being able to make a nice gradient with that little to no effort. I didn't have a sponge that I was constantly having to clean with acetone or cut off the end and just dab, 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 wait for it to dry, dab, 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 wait for it to dry, and move on. I didn't have to put liquid latex around it or anything like that. Now, when you're using this on your regular nails, you still probably want to do some kind of cuticle barrier because sometimes the image you pick will be a little bit bigger than your actual fingernail and will go on to your cuticles. But a cleanup brush will also help with that too. That's not a big deal. But with certain colors, like for instance, black stamping polish, it likes to get very runny and up into your cuticle area and just kind of like stain that area. So having some kind of cuticle barrier is still recommended, but it's not nearly as bad as sponge gradients. Don't get me wrong, I still love sponge gradients. This is an easy, simple way to do it. And it turns out really pretty, and the dry time is less than half of a sponge gradient. These are dry almost instantaneously after they're stamped. So I hope that this was helpful. I will give more videos if you all like this. This is kind of a new thing that I've explored. I have talked about this for over a year. For those who are new and still learning and have trouble finding videos on various things with nail art, I deal with extensions, I deal with press-ons, I deal with raw natural nail manis. So if there's something that you guys would like, just give me some feedback. If you want to learn more about the types of products used here, this particular brand, I am an ambassador of theirs as well. So I do have a discount code. If you want to learn more about stamping in generality, you want to learn more about gradients, you want product reviews. Product reviews is something I'm not fully able to do currently financially, but for what little stuff I do have come in, I can do reviews on them if you would like. Just give me some feedback, what you guys want to see more of, learn more of. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Hope everybody has a nice day. Time for me to get back to my 4-year-old and my day-to-day life.